I'm Marilyn Thomas, and I'm reading from my memoir. It's called I Sang in My Chains. And I'm reading from chapter 21, and I'm beginning in the middle of the chapter. It was in the spring of the year that I received an unexpected visitor from a coal mining town in Pennsylvania. Janice, the 12-year-old who had organized the roll can at Christmas, Janice with the freckles that ran riot on her face, Janice, a 12-year-old, appeared one day in the middle of my afternoon English class in Wisconsin. Until then, she had never been more than 50 miles from home. Because her father was on the road most of the time as a traveling salesman, and her mother slept all day because she bartended at night in the family-owned tavern, Janice had no trouble taking what she needed from the tavern's cash register and catching a bus to Pittsburgh from the coal mining town where she lived, to find a bus from there going to Cleveland, and from there she caught a bus going to Chicago, and from Chicago it was only a half-day's journey by bus to the town where I lived in Wisconsin. She had been on the road 2 days and a night by the time she got to the high school where I was teaching. That day I was teaching Hamlet, trying to explain why the protagonist had a duty to avenge the murder of his father. Just then she walked right into the classroom. No notice of any kind, no letter, no phone call, nothing. She was just there. I almost expected her to announce that she had come to register as I had done for kindergarten. And I was Mrs. Schwartz, amazed to see her standing there all alone. I smiled to myself at the thought. What are you doing here? The students were as shocked as I was to see this freckle-faced girl standing here in their classroom, a pile of golden curls framing her face, her smile revealing braces. In her arms, she carried a small suitcase, not by the handle, but by its two sides. I knew I had to make a decision and make it quickly because this class was generally fidgety, restless, and ready to leap at any opportunity to create chaos and thus interrupt the course of learning. I could ask Janice to have a seat with the rest of the students until the end of the period, but I worried that the class would spend the whole hour peppering me with questions about who she was and why she was there, questions I myself could not answer. I could ask her to step outside and wait for me in the hall until the bell rang, but she might feel insulted or rejected. Instead, I talked to the class. Read Act 2 on your own. I hoped my tone was authoritative. Just to make sure, I added a threat. Expect a test when I get back. I rushed Janice with her suitcase into the vacant press room next door and gave her a quick hug. I didn't receive any letter saying you were coming. Did you write? Was I supposed to know you were coming? If so, I'm sorry because you caught me completely by surprise. The expression on my face must have been one of dumbfounded confusion. She shook her head and giggled, her curls bouncing. I didn't tell anybody. I just got on a bus and came. Her big brown eyes beamed with excitement. Gently, she placed the suitcase on the table, unzipped the top, and lifted out a bowl of 2 goldfish swimming around in the water. I thought you'd like something living from Pennsylvania, she said, as if she knew that I had left my heart there. But how could she have known? I had made no contact with the town or anyone in it after leaving. Our way of life dictated that when we left a mission, we broke all ties with it. It was not considered healthy to cling to the past. As religious women, we were instructed to do as Jesus had instructed his disciples when leaving a place. Brush the dust off your sandals, move on, and never look back. We were a pilgrim people, heaven our only true home. Consequently, I had not heard from or seen anyone from that village since my departure a year before. I knew I should have phoned her parents immediately. Then I should have rushed to inform Sister Eva, my superior, and to tell her we had a runaway on our hands. I did neither. I got out my guitar and we sang one of my favorite songs from my days in that coal mining town. Suzanne takes you down to her place by the river. You can hear the boats go by. You can spend the night forever. The lyrics meant more to me just then than ever before. In her hands, it was Janice who carried tea and oranges that came all the way from China, her precious gifts. as one should bring you cowslips in a hat, swung from the hand, or apples in her skirt. After visiting with her for an hour, I sought out Sister Eva and explained the situation. Sister was adamant. You call her family immediately. I can't believe you've waited this long. They must be frantic with worry. We're harboring a fugitive. Do you know how serious that is? Janice's 10-year-old brother answered the phone. I recognized his voice. Hello, Danny. Yeah. Dan, I just want you to know Janice is here in Wisconsin with me. She's fine, so you can stop worrying. Okay. What do you mean, okay? Aren't you surprised? Weren't you wondering where she was? No. I thought maybe she was at our aunt's house. Well, she's not at your aunt's house. Dan, can I speak to your mother? She's sleeping. Will you wake her? Wake her? Are you kidding? She'll kill me. No, thanks. But Dan, this is important. You have to wake your mother. Sorry. I have orders not to wake her when she's sleeping, and I won't. Never mind then, I said. Let me talk to your dad. He's on the road. I should have guessed. Dan, have your mother call me when she wakes up, okay? Yeah. Thanks. And be sure to tell her that Janice is here in Wisconsin and she's all right. When Janice's mother found out how far her daughter had traveled and that she was with a group of nuns instead of in the hands of some stranger or rapist, she agreed to let Janice stay with us for a week. Sister Eva, who was usually very strict about our observance of the rule, had a guest room put in order for her. Since Janice had brought nothing but goldfish with her, my mom collected some clothes and toiletries for her and brought them to the school. Seeing Janice made me miss that village in Pennsylvania all the more, with its docile children, generous parents, and the freedom we had to socialize with both parishioners and townspeople. I missed Maggie with the custard pies and the sight of her mother kneeling for hours every day in church, clutching her rosary beads. And here, like an angel from heaven, stood another of the village's children, Janice, who had run away from home because she missed me. I sat Janice down in the convent parlor. How did you know what to do? How did you find me? All those bus connections between Wisconsin and Pennsylvania would have baffled a grown-up, I thought, and she had apparently managed without a hitch. I always looked for a grandma to sit next to, she said. Grandmas are so nice. One gave me a whole bag of chocolate chip cookies. They told me when it was time to get off and what bus to take next. But how did you find the school? Since I didn't think she had even heard its name, I was amazed by her achievement. When I got to this town, she said, I just told the taxi driver to take me to the Catholic high school. He knew what I was talking about. She pulled a little box from her pocket. This is for the fish, she said. But you don't need to feed them now because I already did today. She watched them dart around in the water, obviously pleased to see them looking so healthy. With me, Janice played the confidant, sensing my loneliness and answering my need for a friendly face. I knew I couldn't confide in her about my feelings for Father Ben. I couldn't even ask about him, though I missed him more than I thought possible. Did he maybe miss me too? I had no idea. If Janice had been older, I might have told her everything. Maybe I should have, but I kept reminding myself she was only 12. How could she understand?